You can take a social media break and think that that's going to help, which it will. It will band-aid it. It will make you feel okay. But what happens is you will still find people outside of you that you see to still compare yourself. So I think hiding or running away from things doesn't always fix it. It soothes us for that moment. While we are away from something like social media, for example, there's still a lot of extra work that has to be done so that when we pop back on social media, we're actually ready to not compare ourselves. Because a lot of times it's easier to not do something when you're not in that environment. And then when you get back in the environment, you start back doing it again because you're getting triggered again. And all the reason why you're getting triggered again is because you never pulled the finger off of the trigger. You just kind of set the gun down for a while. Some of the struggles that we talked about inside of the group chat this week was consistency and comparing ourselves. So one queen, she got back active. She was pretty inactive inside of the group chat, but she decided that, one day she was gonna post her detox and hop in like she had never left. And I absolutely loved that. I told her, even though she is inconsistent, the fact that she keeps giving herself chance after chance and trying to start again lets me know that she still believes in herself. And as long as you believe in yourself, you are winning. And that's what I believe. It's levels to the journey of healing. Everybody's not going to be ready to stop everything that they're doing cold turkey and be 100% consistent with no slip ups and stuff like that. That's not realistic for everybody. And if it's not realistic, I like to look at it as an opportunity to learn more about you, to continue to discover things about yourself that you didn't even know. So if there is something that's causing you to be inconsistent, that just means there's a version of you or a piece of you that you're not ready to face. So you keep on subconsciously pulling back and making yourself just not even want to really press forward. And that's what I've struggled with a lot inside of my journey. But that's what I wanted to talk about today, because inside of the inconsistency is something that needs to be shined light on. Every time you overcome something in your life and it's time for you to do another new thing, you're going to have to do the same work that you did before, just on this new thing. And I realized once again, I was afraid of moving forward in this unknown area of my life because I was afraid that I wouldn't, how do I word this? I was afraid of the version of myself that I was becoming because I had got so comfortable with who I'm used to being. I know that the version of myself that I want to be is going to be better for me, but it seems like so much work that I'm holding on to my old self because I've gotten, even though I'm uncomfortable being here, I've got so comfortable with being here, I don't want to let it go. Like, I found comfort in deciding to just lay in my bed, right? And just kind of think about the things that I need to do versus just getting up and doing all the extra tasks that I need to do that I know is going to take me to a new level. So when I think about getting up out my bed and doing the thing, I literally, like, my body literally doesn't feel like doing the work, but I feel like motivating myself in my head and I feel like daydreaming and fantasizing about it. I just have gotten comfortable with just laying there. And that's just the real truth of it. And so for me, I had to go back to the science because that helps me out. When I go back to the science of what's going on with me, I have to realize that my body is like an animal that we have to train. Our body is, we have a soul, we have a spirit, and we have a body. This body is like a car, and our soul is the driver. Our spirit is the driver of the car. So I can have all the desires in my heart and all the images and visualizations of who I want to be. But if I don't train this animal like body of mine to do what I'm thinking, I will only be a thinker. I would be just like that man that was sitting. I don't even know what his name is. It's a statue of a man who is just sitting like this right here. You know what I'm talking about?
It's called the thinker.
I would be just like that statue, thinking about my life, but not doing nothing, just froze in time, just sitting there thinking about stuff. And I don't want to live like that. And I know that as I'm sitting there, but it's not enough to make me move. So what I found out is in order for me to move, I have to go back to the basics, which is an agenda. It's super boring, but it is what it is. I know for a 1,000,000% fact, if I don't have an exact thing written down for me to see that I need to do, I will sit there and think about all the tasks that I need to do. I will get excited about the possibility of me overcoming them and knocking them down. And then in the middle of that thought, I get overwhelmed with everything that I gotta do. So at that point, I'm laying in my bed like an emotional roller coaster. I get super high. I'm excited. It's a new day. Then I'm like, oh snap! I gotta do this. I gotta do that. I gotta do this, that, and that. And then I go super downhill. So now I'm like, oh Lord. Then a baby might cry. And then I just go down further, like, oh Lord, now I gotta do this and take care of this and try to figure out that. And in the process of me sitting there, I'm wasting so much time. And then around the middle of the afternoon, when everything is like clashing together and I'm feeling super overwhelmed, this voice in my head said, well, you know, I told you to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, you know, you sat there and did all that thinking, and you know, you didn't get up and you didn't hit it. And I'm just like, oh my God. How can I quiet this voice in my mind that is pointing out all of the things that I knew I was supposed to do, but my body, my animal body, didn't want to get up and do it? And that's when we go back to the agenda. I'm taking myself back to high school. In high school, they had our schedule printed out. We knew what time to go to what class, what time to do what thing. And for some reason, it worked. It worked then, so I know it can work now. So on my side of my agenda, I'm literally marking down every hour that I have accessible to me. I got the same 24 hours as Beyonce. She used to be my role model. I had the same 24 hours as Beyonce. Now, I'm breathing in the same lifetime that she breathing in. If she can do some stuff and make some stuff shake, I can do it too. So I write down all of my times. I write down what I am currently doing in that time frame, and then I write down what I need to be doing. That is going to be a permanent everyday schedule. I'm going to laminate it on my wall just like I did for Aubrey, my daughter. She has a checklist of everything that she needs to do every single day. I need to give myself that same checklist because I'm giving myself way too much leeway and I'm trying to depend on this big brain way too much, and it's very undependable, and it's messing with my confidence and my self-esteem and my ability to show up for myself, my family, and my business. So I can't just say, okay, I'm gonna remember this. I can't get motivated. This is what I had to learn about myself, and this is why you will learn a whole lot about yourself in your healing journey. I will get motivated when I see a certain thing or when I hear a certain thing. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this. Oh yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna make sure I remember to do this. When that time comes, back to the statue, just thinking about it. So what I'm also going to do, not only am I going to write down what I should be doing, but inside of my agenda, I'm going to write the task that is the biggest task, the most strenuous task that I have to do the next day. I'm going to write it down in my journal the night before. So that when I wake up, I already know. I don't have to sit here and negotiate and think about 102 million things I got to do. I'm going to focus on that one big task that I see, and I'm going to get up and I'm going to just do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm not gonna give myself enough time to sit down and keep on thinking about life. Because I done thumped myself into a procrastination pit, and now I gotta pull myself out of it. I see how God is giving me opportunities, but I'm not ready to execute on them because I was the statue. But training this body is gonna require me to be very disciplined, and the discipline is going to come from the routine, and it's going to come from me setting aside time to create a brand new routine and giving myself some realistic goals to meet. So that's why I wanted to encourage everybody to do is to go back to the basics. We've done that before, but like I said, as you meet new levels, as you have new goals, as you have new aspirations for yourself, it's like we have to do it all over again. It's not like you overcome it and that's just it. You just got it down pat. It just simply don't work like that. That's just like, we get hungry, we eat a big old meal, we get full. If that meal that we ate could last a lifetime, that would be phenomenal. We'd be saving so much money, we'd be saving so much time, we wouldn't have to stop and cook and eat. If we could eat a meal and it could last for a month and we just be full and all that, but it's not true. And the same thing goes for our mind, the same thing goes for our body. We have to continuously feed it and train it. Someone said they were struggling with comparing themselves, and I know how that is. You can take a social media break and think that that's going to help, which it will. It will band-aid it. It will make you feel okay, but what happens is you will still find people outside of you that you see to still compare yourself. So I think hiding or running away from things doesn't always fix it. It soothes us for that moment. While we are away from something like social media, for example, there's still a lot of extra work that has to be done so that when we pop back on social media, we're actually ready to not compare ourselves. Because a lot of times it's easier to not do something when you're not in that environment. And then when you get back in the environment, you start back doing it again because you're getting triggered again. And the only reason why you're getting triggered again is because you never, pulled the finger off of the trigger. You just kind of set the gun down for a while. One thing that's going to help with self comparison is going back to self love, looking at your daily habits. What are we doing on a daily basis? This life in our mind is just like a garden. We have to nurture it every single day. For me, when I start comparing myself, I said, okay, so what is really going on here? What do we really need to talk about? What do you really need to hear? Why are you so worried about what this person is doing? Why do you feel like you cannot get to where they're at? Or why do you feel like you can't have what they have? And that goes back into having a lack mindset versus an abundance mindset. An abundance mindset will allow me to see that I have access to everything that is supposed to be destined for me. All my desires are already on the way. I just have to accept them and believe that I have the ability to achieve the things that's going to get me there. And that's it. Just be willing to do the work. But you'll feel like you need to compare yourself if you see somebody else doing the work and you're not doing the work. So it looks like they have it going on because they're willing to do something you're not willing to do. So it'll make you feel some type of way about you. That's just like if you're on a workout journey, you're struggling to lose weight. You know what you need to do. Somebody else may be losing the weight and dropping the pounds because they're doing some extra work that you're not willing to do. So we can start comparing ourselves to that person and feel some type of way about that person on the inside. But really, we need to look at ourselves. And if there is a blockage that's coming up, or if there is confusion about the next step that needs to be taken, you have to ask yourself, okay, well, am I actually really trying to get to the root cause of this thing? Or am I trying to blame everybody else or every single thing outside of me for me not reaching that goal? We always have to ask ourselves, how much of our power are we continuously giving away? If you fight for your excuses, you get to keep them. And I have to tell myself that more times than I like to admit, especially in the season of my life when I'm trying to push myself to go to a new level. I find myself thinking about all the excuses of why this is too hard and why this is too much and all of this stuff. Sometimes I have my moments still too. And I have to ask myself, why all the excuses? Why am I putting so much energy in the excuses when I could be putting a whole lot more energy into the solution to the problem? If we start being more solution oriented, we will get to where we want to be 10 times quicker. So it goes back to, where are you putting your energy and who are you giving your power to? Whether it's your kids, whether it's your job, whether it's just, I don't know, anything. It could be anything. For me, I found myself saying stuff like, and you have to be careful. If you're saying a certain thing, you need to really write that down in your journal and dive deeper into it, shine even more light onto it. But for example, for me, at one point, I found myself saying, you really done messed up having all these kids because now you don't have time for you. Now you don't have time to get a whole lot of stuff done because every time you try to do something, you got to do something for somebody else. I found myself creating that excuse. And the reason why I said that was an excuse because I was trying to blame something outside of me for my insufficiency, for my inability to just move and make stuff happen, my inability to train my body to get up and to continue to push, and fight. One thing about this body that we are trying to train to come better and rewire this mind that we're trying to rewire is that if we keep on doing the thing, it will learn the task. We won't have to think so much about it. But it's just that middle ground. It's that process. It's that grit work to getting there. And it's all about trying to figure out how to cope and love ourselves in that gap between being on the way there. And what I found out for me is when I identified and became aware of the excuses I was creating, I had to sit back and say, whoa, well, okay, if that's the excuse I'm creating, who outside of me has a similar situation but is still killing it, but is still on it? If you want to compare yourself, you have to do it in an inspirational way. You have to let people inspire you. So we only get jealous. That's the difference between jealousy and inspiration. Let me talk about that a little bit. We get jealous of somebody when we see them doing a thing, and then we feel like we can't do it, or we feel like the excuses that we have created and decided to believe in our mind are so real that they are stopping us from making it happen, and we will never get to the place that this other person is. However, if you let that person inspire you, you will see your struggles. You will see how their struggles mirror yours, and their ability to overcome is going to ignite you and inspire you to push so that you can get as far or even further than they did. When you change your mind and look at it like that, you'll say, wow, they did this thing, so I know this is hope that I can do it too. Well, let me look and see what tips and hacks and life tricks and life hacks that they use to overcome this certain thing. Then when we tap into that mindset, we are able to connect, we're able to partner up, we are able to share and just contribute to everybody's well-being and everybody's growth, because at that moment we are just open to hearing new things and open to receiving help and support. When somebody tries to help you or give you advice and you're like, no, I got it, or somebody tries to give you advice, you're like, no, I can't because, or I can't but, it's like they're giving you a solution, but you keep on throwing, and vomiting all kind of junk that is just pushing what they're saying out of the way. But if we could just stop for a second and be inspired instead of jealous, it will help us get to where we have to be 10 times quicker. And that's one thing that I know has helped me out on my journey. A million percent fact. I know it. There was someone that I found myself feeling like I was jealous of because they just seemed like they just had it all together, and they just seemed like, they really had it going on. And here I am allowing somebody's post on the social media screen. You can make yourself look like whatever you want to look like on social media, but in real life, you just never know what people got going on. I had a conversation with this person and I found out that we had a lot of similarities. And I was like, wow, you look like you got it going on. So I was like, thinking I need to be more like her. And in reality, it was just some simple things that she was implementing in her life that I knew I needed to do, but I kept making so many excuses. I just wasn't doing that. I just got comfortable. So, yeah, I just want to encourage you to be inspired. Stop comparing yourself. And instead of pushing away or hiding from the thing that's making you feel uncomfortable, let's sit in that uncomfort. Let's sit there and shine light on it. It's just like when we got that massage. Well, everybody wasn't there. But when you get a massage and you have a muscle, a knot in your back, the masseuse will say, okay, I'm going to apply pressure to this, and it's going to feel super uncomfortable. Like you'll feel like you have a pain. The knot will be in your upper back, but it'll be a sharp shooting pain that goes like to the bottom of your butt cheek, because that's how it was for me. And apparently this is a normal thing. Okay, so it's just like you're putting pressure on that pain point, and it may be shooting to your butt, but the longer the masseuse applies pressure and rubs it out, the more intense it gets. It's gonna get sore, but the next day the pain is gonna be gone. And that's because you applied pressure to the area that felt the most uncomfortable for you. And if you just sit there and feel it and dig deep into it for as long as you can, you will discover some amazing things about yourself and you will get the relief from the pain. And when I made that connection with myself, I said, "Oh wow, all right, let me get stronger in my prayer life, because God, I'm gonna need you to pull me through this. I'm finna sit in my uncomfort, and I know how ugly my thoughts can get. So every time my thoughts start to get too scary and too ugly, I have to readjust myself. I have to hold on stronger and just continue to push myself and continue to keep going."
Yes.
Okay, Queen, what were you going to say?
For me, definitely, that's something that definitely hit home with me. In my mind, I can see all these great things, and I know I have the capability of doing them. But it festers in my mind. I'm not actually making them come to life. I'm not I'm not putting that first foot forward to get that action or get that task started. Not getting out of my mind. It's just living up there in fantasy world. But for
Right. Every time you go up a level, there's gonna be new thoughts and new battles to fight. But I promise you, we got what it takes to knock down each and every single last one. Because one thing I do know for sure is we're gonna get to the other side of this mountain. I promise you that.